Remind honourable members that there have been some changes to normal practice in order to support the new call list system and to ensure that social distancing can be respected. Members should sanitise their microphones using the cleaning materials provided before they use them and dispose of them, that's the cleaning materials, not the microphones, as they leave the room. Members are also asked to respect the one-way system around the room, and members should only speak from the horseshoe, although it doesn't look like that will be a problem for our debate today. Members are not expected to remain for wind-ups. But I remind honourable members that there is less of an expectation that members stay for the next two speeches once they have spoken. This is to help manage attendance in the room. Members may wish to stay beyond their speech, but they should be aware that doing so may prevent members in the seats in the public gallery from moving to seats in the horseshoe. Again, something that I don't think it looks like is going to impinge on our concern this afternoon. Order, order. Alan Cairns to move the motion.
Well, thank you, Mrs Eagle, for facilitating this debate. It's a privilege to serve under your chairing. I'm grateful to the members present for their interest, and I'm sure that there will be cross-party support in my objective. I want to use the UK's excellence in areas of new technology as an opportunity to help grow the UK economy and to support the government's levelling up agenda across the UK. Some time has passed since the decision was taken to exclude Huawei from the UK's 5G network. Governments around the world face challenges over Huawei's dominance in this field. Concerns around security contradicted the will or demand to roll out the technology as quickly as possible. A tension between the two was created. We all know the difficult decision that the government took to exclude Huawei's influence, and we look forward to the telecom security bill that will be presented shortly. The result is that alternative providers need to be found and developed, and this is an opportunity for the UK to step up in specific areas. Now, as a free marketeer, my instinct is to let the market decide, and that remains true. But with the UK having considerable expertise in the field, the government can play an active part in setting the direction and creating the parameters, and in providing the greatest certainty to allow for private investment, particularly in the fields where, as a nation, we are in a leading position. Announcements towards open standards, such as Open RAN, highlight that the government understands this, and their focus should be recognised. This will diversify the market, improve resilience and innovation, and facilitate the UK to play a leading position in this field, recently dominated by the Chinese. Now, the reach and influence of 5G technology will extend much further than previous generations of communication. Its capacity to carry much larger volumes of data at very high speeds mean that our connected lives will be taken to a new plane. From the Internet of Things to connected vehicles to smart cities, and many more areas that we haven't even thought of yet. There are several fundamental elements needed to achieve this. Now, these will include a range of areas, but things like radio frequency and satellite communications, 5G and base station capabilities, backhaul technologies, and cyber-resilient networks, amongst others. I will highlight these elements because this is where I believe that the UK already has specific expertise that can be developed further, which is something that I will comment on a little bit later. But all of these come together using compound semiconductors. Now, these are very high-capacity chips that enable more data to be managed effectively. It was once described to me that if a silicon chip is a country lane, a compound semiconductor is a great big highway. And I think that encapsulates the opportunity and the possibilities that 5G will create. But interestingly, they also minimize energy consumption and will play a big part in our net zero target. And it's with great pleasure I say that the world's first cluster of compound semiconductor technology is in South Wales, developed from companies like IQE, SPTS, Newport Wafer Fab, and many others have followed since. all supported by the Compound Semiconductor Applications Catapult. Now, I want to pay particular tribute to the work of Dr. Andy Sellers from the Catapult, who first sparked my interest in this field when I was the Secretary of State. Government investment has been significant through BEIS, UKRI and the Cardiff Capital Region City deal. Now, it was a privilege to play an active part in supporting the project and to see Swansea and Cardiff University research play its part along with other universities from Bristol to Cambridge and many more. But I also had to ensure that the Department for International Trade were also aware of their expertise, and it was good to see Andy Sellers in a prominent position at the Great Festival of Innovation in Hong Kong, highlighting the possibilities and seeking to attract interest and investment globally. It was an extremely impressive show and recognised by everyone, and it was a privilege to be there to see it in action. But the fundamental elements that I've highlighted are also areas where the UK has specific expertise that can be developed with an appropriate framework. The high-speed radio frequency technology, along with satellite communications needed to maximise coverage, is one example. The UK's investment in OneWeb shows that the government understands the opportunity. There is also a cluster of complementary technology companies in the North East too, such as Viper RF, Diamond Microwave and Xenic. These are all supported by the Satellite Applications Catapult in the region, and elsewhere in the UK is Iconic RF, who have a very strong reputation internationally. Now, I want to pay tribute to the Minister for his active interest in this area that has given a lot of support to the industry and encouraged further investment. But there is more to do. As part of the network improvements, there will be a need to upgrade base stations with the specific need to develop small cell technology. Blue Wireless in Bristol is an example of UK's expertise that also benefits from the compound semiconductor cluster that I've already referred to, which also forms part of the Western Gateway region. Now, also in the Western Gateway economic region is the UK's strength in cyber resilience. That would include Airbus, Thales, GCHQ, Bristol University's quantum optical network strength, amongst others. Another essential element is backhaul, which takes data from the cellular base stations and feeds into the network. 5G applications will mean a need to develop it from its strength beyond the 400 gigabits per second. Filtronic in Durham and Cambridge broadband network are forerunners in this area too. And the final piece of the jigsaw chair is test and validation. This is critical to guarantee the interoperability between the vital elements that I've already referred to. Now, the UK is headquarters to the world's leading test and validation company, Spirit, who also operate in the United States. Now, bringing all these together highlights the expertise we hold in discrete areas of 5G apparatus, a technology and infrastructure project for which demand will grow exponentially. We have an opportunity to develop a plan to ensure that these companies and others are well positioned to benefit from this opportunity. But the big question is, how do we do it? There are examples across government of support in the automotive sector, for example, that offers a model on how to engage with the industry to develop clusters of consortia that are necessary. So, for example, the Advanced Propulsion Centre plays a role in facilitating the shift to electric vehicles. Its modest budget has attracted significant private sector investment in the field. Now, in one example, the APC supports a consortium of 13 companies working with the Compound Semiconductor Catapult in South East Wales that I've already referred to create the UK semiconductor supply chain to power McLaren's electric sport car. On the back of this project, further consortia are formed with BMW and Mini to benefit from UK technology. So in total, the Catapult is working on approximately £100 million worth of projects, with 50% of which has been funded by the private sector, And I suspect the private sector proportion will continue to grow and grow because of the cluster of excellence that has been created. Now, another model in a very different field is when the government set up the ventilator challenge in response to COVID to encourage manufacturers to innovate to meet the global shortages of ventilators. A consortium of companies brought together by the high-value manufacturing Catapult built over 15,000 ventilators, representing 5 years of production in just 3 months. This was pulled together in the national interest that wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the government playing that facilitating role. And the third example, I would say, is the development of energy generation projects that has received similar support too. The certainty that the government gave behind offshore wind energy installation allowed the UK to dominate the engineering field in this sector. And similarly, the commitment towards small modular nuclear reactors is leading to a world first here in the UK that has the potential to be a major exporter. And again, I would pay tribute to BEIS and to DIT and the Wales office when I had a personal interest in this because Wales has a strong presence in the opportunity. So I'm not calling for a new agency, the Minister will be pleased to hear, or for identical models to be used, but seeking to use the same principles that were established in electric vehicles, ventilators, offshore wind, SMRs, to prompt further investment from the private sector. Now, the government does have a part to play in providing certainty on policy, and DCMS is playing a significant part, but it needs to also act as a facilitator to bring some of these excellent companies together and to work with BEIS because of the cross-departmental agenda. And I also gently say to the Minister and to other members that not every government department is always as joined up as we would like them to be. So sometimes there needs to be an able minister with a great pedigree that has that opportunity to bring people together, just as the minister before us. The market potential is significant and would be a welcome boost to many parts of the United Kingdom. Now, the companies have a part to play too. If I have any criticism, it's that they don't shout loud enough about their expertise or about their potential. I also deliberately stated the location of where most of these companies were based because their siting is also relevant to the government's levelling up agenda. The Western Gateway that I've referred to has some of the most deprived parts of the UK, but has the excellence in that region to bring together complementary expertise that doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. Similarly, the North East plays a leading position in radio frequency and satellite technology that I've highlighted, and we all know the government's ambitions to grow the economy in that part of the country. Now, Ms Eagle, the government's decision on Huawei could be a pivot to develop our expertise further, to scale up research and manufacturing, leading to a major increase in UK components to our 5G network and a huge export market. At the same time, removing the security risks that many were concerned about some time ago. I beg to move, and I look forward to the Minister's response. Thank you.
The question is that this House has considered business and economic opportunities after Huawei's exclusion from the 5G network. Imran Khan.
Thank you, Ms Eagle. It's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship. In this interconnected world, we are all utterly reliant on telecom services and digital infrastructure. It not only ensures we can communicate with one another, but allows businesses to operate and provides people with new ways to socially interact, increasingly crucial during this pandemic and subsequent lockdowns. There are no absolutes in cybersecurity. It's not a binary subject. And we can never envisage an entirely secure system. During the COVID-19 pandemic, cyber and digital security have become ever more important. There is an ever-growing mountain of evidence that hostile actors have utilized the pandemic as an opportunity to carry out malicious cyber activity. This pandemic has revealed the importance of ensuring that our digital infrastructure and telecom services are as secure as possible. It is precisely for this reason that I strongly commend Her Majesty's Government's decision to remove Huawei entirely from the UK's 5G network by the end of 2027. The Foreign Secretary has already outlined concerns with Chinese involvement in our networks, outlining that China is worryingly engaged in pernicious cyber attacks against our commercial, academic, and even during this pandemic, our medical institutions. China, or more precisely, the Chinese Communist Party, is irrefutably a threat to our cyber infrastructure. Huawei is, in effect, a state-owned structure under the control of the Chinese Communist Party. The company's trade union committee is registered with and pays dues to the Shenzhen Federation and the All China Federation of Trade Unions, which in turn is controlled by the CCP. Through a combination of a prolonged poverty of Western strategic thinking and Chinese Communist Party subsidies, intellectual property theft, and entering low-income markets with low-cost products, Huawei has become a market leader in 5G. To some, Huawei's exclusion may well be seen as a risk. However, in reality, it provides the United Kingdom with numerous opportunities and benefits to build a safe and secure 5G network. As stated, Huawei, like every major Chinese firm, is not truly independent of the Chinese state. The very real risk of this is the Chinese Communist Party utilizing Huawei's infrastructure to access, to spy upon, disrupt, and even sabotage critical UK interests via our communications, which would undermine both the security of our allies and ourselves. Secondly, the strength and durability of Huawei's systems are questionable. Whilst Huawei has gained success for its low-cost products, their ability to withstand cyber attacks is questionable. BBC securities correspondent Gordon Carrera reported that UK security services have been highly critical of the company's engineering standards. The UK must seize this opportunity and pave its own path in developing and maintaining its 5G network with minimal interference from Huawei and its communist overlords. The benefits of using British cyber and telecommunications companies should not be underestimated, boosting the success of our firms and simultaneously providing a strong foundation for our digital economy. Naturally, this does not only have to include British firms. Companies such as Japan's NEC Corporation or South Korea's Samsung could also be brought in to assist in creating the UK's 5G network. Our close trading relationship with Japan and the signing of the UK-Japan free trade deal only weeks ago mean that such partnerships would make commercial, political, and economic sense. Whilst Huawei does pose a cheap and quick option to create a 5G network in the UK, it would forever be compromised by the Chinese Communist Party, whilst additionally further denying opportunities for the UK's businesses and wider economy. The economic, commercial, and political case for Huawei's exclusion is overwhelming.
Stephen Flynn.
Thank you, Ms Eagle, and it's a pleasure to serve under you as Chair. I think it's important to firstly congratulate the member for the Vale of Glamorgan for bringing forward this debate and securing it. It's clearly a matter that he knows a significant amount about, and he spoke incredibly passionately, particularly in and around Wales and the North East, and what could be achieved. In terms of silicon chips, and I think it was semiconductors, he did use a turn of phrase which I hadn't heard before, and he certainly educated me in that regard, and that's something that I'll definitely take away from this debate, if nothing else at all, which I'm sure my dad as an engineer will be delighted about, because he spent many years trying to educate me on these things when I was younger, to no success whatsoever. In terms of the member for Wakefield, I think he raised some incredibly important matters, ones which I'll come to in due course, but firstly in terms of interconnectivity, particularly during the pandemic, we've all been reliant upon the ability to contact people virtually. A great deal of this House at this moment in time operates virtually, albeit not enough, and it has shown us the reliance that we now have upon technology, and we should be willing to embrace further betterment from technology, be that 5G or otherwise, to improve all of our standards of living. In terms of Huawei, I think I was actually quite surprised that there's less people here to talk about Huawei, because it's usually a matter which garners much attention, particularly in the chamber, but there we are nonetheless. But I think the points that were raised were incredibly important. And I think the best way to sum that up is the fact that it was a particularly sorry episode for the government. The to-ing and fro-ing which took place was not necessary, particularly when we were all aware that Huawei was deemed to be a high-risk vendor. And I'm sure that if the government had their time back, they would probably do things differently. But again, that is one of the pitfalls of government, I suppose, and I see a wry smile on the Minister's face in that regard. But obviously the debate that we're in today is in relation to 5G and its potential, particularly in relation to business. And the potential is enormous, be that in health, be that in transport, be that also in terms of climate change. The potential is enormous. We're not just talking about better connectivity on our mobile phones, as some may believe. And in terms of climate change, I just want to reflect on that briefly, because there are two sides, of course, to that debate. There are those who believe that if you have 5G and it's working in the manner which it should, then you will ultimately increase the level of energy that you are using, because you can do more and see more much quicker. But on the contrary, you can also perhaps seek to combat climate change by doing things in a more efficient and effective manner. And I think that's the goal that we all must aim for, particularly when we're looking at 5G moving forward, and how we can tie that into the challenges that face us, be it in Scotland, in the UK, or across the globe in terms of climate change. And that should really be at the heart of most of the things that we seek to do going forward. Ultimately, when it comes to 5G, telecommunications is a reserved matter. I wish, like all policy matters, it was one that sat in the remit of the Scottish Parliament, but we've not quite reached that stage yet. And I say yet is the optimum word, but we will get there. I see some sniggering from the back there, but we will get there. But until that moment, of course, telecommunications is reserved, and certainly in Scotland, from Scotland's perspective, we are very much at the behest of the UK government in terms of the avenues that they seek to go down. And as they do progress with this matter, I think it's incredibly important that we do take into account the specifics of the geography of Scotland. As the Minister's PPS will be acutely aware, 42% of Scotland doesn't even have access to 4G. On my way to the airport today in Aberdeen, I lost signal on numerous occasions going around the city, not through the city, I would say, because I do believe that there's some 5G enablement within the city, but on the way around the city, lost signal altogether. So we need to be mindful of the fact that there are geographical challenges across the entire UK as we move forward with this matter. And it's important that the investment, be that investment from the government, be that investment from the private sector, that it seeks to benefit everyone, that nobody misses out. Like I say, that climate change plays a key role, but that those rural communities across Scotland and the rest of the United Kingdom also get the connectivity that they so badly deserve. And ultimately, I'll conclude by saying that whilst we need to ensure that nobody misses out, we also need to make sure that security and resilience are at the forefront of everything that we do when it comes to 5G and ensuring better interconnectivity within Scotland and the UK. Thank you.
Shadow Minister Onwurah.
Thank you, Ms Eagle, and it's a great pleasure to be here to serve under your chairship for the first time. And I'd just like to start by particularly thanking the member for the Vale of Glamorgan for securing this really important debate. And it's a real pleasure to be able to talk about to have the opportunity to talk about such an important subject. And I'm very grateful to him for that. And I should say that, in his opening comments, I should say that rarely have I heard a speech from the opposing ranks with which I agreed so very fully, and indeed almost entirely. I appreciate his comments, on the importance of 5G and the opportunities. I also appreciate his reference to Dr. Andy Sellers, who has been is making really important advances in this area, and I appreciated his comments on photonics in the northeast of England. But indeed, there have always been relationships, good closeness between the northeast and Wales, and leading in the diversification of the telecom supply chain would simply be another one. I should also declare an interest. As some may know, I worked as a telecoms engineer for 23 years before coming into Parliament. And indeed, my very first job was with a telecoms equipment supplier called Nortel, Northern Telecom, who, when I joined them, had just bought, I think, one of the last two British telecom suppliers, that being STC. Marconi stayed around a little bit longer. And I think, Ms. Eagle, it is a true, it's a real shame that having worked for Nortel, I never went on to work for a British, I spent my entire career in telecoms, and I never went on to work for a British telecoms supplier. And indeed, that was a consequence of the industrial strategies pursued under, I would say, the then Conservative Thatcher government and the current Conservative government, with not enough done in the intervening Labour years. So I want to, start, but I want to also agree with both the member for Vale of Glamorgan and the member for Wakefield in their characterisation of the opportunities of 5G, which can transform and bring broadband to every corner of our country, we hope, which is so much lacking now, and allow us to have a real on-the-go mobile broadband, together with the opportunities of the Internet of Things and the vast increase in connected devices that we will see. Which is why it's such a shame that the government find themselves in such a 5G mess. They are happy, I understand, to pass the cost of their mistakes, indecision and poor planning onto the operators, and stating, for example, that the costs for removing Huawei are, and I quote, commercial decisions for each operator to make. Cost the sector worries could top £7 billion and cause delays of up to 3 years to 5G rollout, harming growth and innovation. We should not accept such a delay, which harms indeed UK productivity and sends a message to innovators to look elsewhere. So could I ask the Minister, will he confirm that there will be no delay to the target of 5G rollout to the majority of the country by 2027? Now, members for both Vale of Glamorgan and Wakefield were right to emphasise the opportunities, indeed, of effective diversification strategy. I put many questions to the Minister on this point, and he has indeed confirmed that government plan to prioritise open source and open RAN technologies, mentioned by the member for the Vale of Glamorgan, as part of the government's plan to build market resilience. But I have to say, Mr. Eagle, we still lack any clear strategy for our telecoms infrastructure and for its diversification. Yes, we have the names of those on the telecoms task force, but no telecom systems developers are amongst them. The Minister said this was because the focus was on cybersecurity. I should say that whilst we obviously, and we're taking the steps, hopefully, to secure our network, we need a network which is innovative, effective, resilient, as well as secure. And so the absence of any telecoms systems developers on the telecoms task force is a real loss, as well as the lack of any representation for any organisation or person from north of Bristol, I think it is. And would the Minister set out how he intends to ensure that we have a truly representative and a task force able to really make use of the talent and innovation throughout the relevant sectors and throughout the country? Now, the Telecom Security Bill was published this afternoon. I haven't had time to assess all its clauses in full, but it does not seem to refer to the diversification strategy that we are promised. And I should say to the Minister that having taking the measures to secure our network, which we on this side welcome, but without a diversification strategy, in fact, our network will not be secure because we will be so dependent on perhaps 2 vendors. We absolutely have to have a diversification strategy, not only to ensure the opportunities in different sectors and in different parts of our countries for economic development, but actually to make that network secure. So where is this diversification strategy, and how can we have a bill which does one thing, which secures a network, which is so dependent on a strategy which does not appear to mention it? Now, briefly on the opportunities in Open RAN, defence and international collaboration, and thank the member for the Vale Gilmore for the explanation of Open RAN. The market is estimated worth 47 billion by 2026, and the UK can gain a significant amount of that if we build on our existing strengths, such as compound semiconductors, radios, and software for disaggregated networks. Now, the decision to remove Huawei from our networks was based on national security, exhibiting one of the many synergies between telecoms and defence, with many UK companies supplying both the telecoms and defence markets. For example, semiconductor fabricators, VI, a northeast company based in County Durham, or Inex Microtechnology in Sedgefield, provide critical infrastructure to both the telecoms and defence markets. We are going to see immediate action from operators to replace high-risk vendors and a long-term replacement strategy in UK 5G infrastructure, opening doors for business. Japanese firms like NEC, as the member from Wakefield referred to, have already agreed to set up a UK telecommunications centre to help provide immediate alternatives to high-risk vendors, providing NEC with a springboard into the European market. This is a good opportunity for many smaller UK firms, but it cannot be a one-off. What is the government's strategy to ensure that UK firms can forge strong partnerships with international firms? Now, it takes investment as well as strategic vision to diversify our supply chain after so many years. And I'm afraid both of these seem sadly lacking. Will the Minister take the chance today to tell us how much additional funding the government will provide for telecoms research and development and innovation? And at the same time, how much will be going to the north? Now, we have an excellent science-based and technological opportunities to be found. And indeed, last month, no, in fact, in March, I think it was in March, I offered the Minister, as a constructive opposition, a 5-point plan to help diversify our supply chain. I called for a communications catapult centre. I called for next generation R&D projects. To remember that BT used to have a major lab, developing and looking far ahead at new telecommunications technologies. Is the Minister considering something like that? And can he again give us more details of this? I also call for support for standards development to support interoperability. We've heard nothing about that. And a serious look at non-5G wireless technologies. So what is the Minister doing to support these in all the regions of the UK? Ms Eagle, the UK has an opportunity to build a highly resilient, secure and diversified 5G network, unlocking opportunities for business and innovation across the country. Further, when we think about the next generation, 6G, 7G, the UK, in doing that, has the opportunity to lay the foundations to return us to a leading telecommunications country. Let us remember that we invented both fibre and the web in the UK. I would urge the Minister to set out, to obtain, if you like, the political will and set out the plan which ensures our diverse telecom sector has the confidence and the investment that it needs to grow and to lead the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Minister Matt Warman.
Thank Thank you, Ms Eagle, and it's a pleasure, as so many have said, to serve with you in the chair. And I start by paying tribute to the honourable member, for my right honourable friend, for the Vale of Glamorgan, for securing what is a genuinely important topic, and a topic that on other days perhaps would have attracted a significantly bigger crowd. But I take that as a sign that the government is going in the right direction in lots of ways. It is nonetheless a critical topic for this government, and it has been my focus for the last few months, to say the least. I want to begin, as he did, by paying tribute to the work of the Catapult and of Dr. Andy Sellers, as so many people have mentioned. It's a £43.5 million government project. It's supported by UKRI, and I think it's important to also say that the £12 million from the Welsh Government is an important contribution. 1,500 people already employed as part of this project, and we do expect, as he said, thousands more to come as part of that investment. And we're already seeing, as he mentioned, as though he'd read some of my speech already, as he mentioned, clusters forming off the clusters. And that work in the northeast, in Cambridge, in Bristol, and elsewhere, collaborating so closely with the private sector, I think does show that Britain is beginning to really take this opportunity by the horns and make the best that we can of it. And we do that in collaboration with other international partners. But ultimately, the opportunity is due to a wealth of expertise in this country that the Honourable Lady did also highlight. And that private sector collaboration will only continue to grow. Now, as the Honourable Gentleman did highlight, though, we have plenty more work to do. And I think one of the things that we are going to be seeking to do through our diversification strategy is to shape the market and set the direction in a way that works genuinely with our private sector partners, because he is right to say that while there is much that we should leave to the market, when it comes to our national security, we have to work collaboratively, and we have to do it in a way that makes sure we do not repeat the mistakes of the past. And ultimately, we are in the position that we are in with Huawei because of decades of the wrong decisions that have come out, albeit with the best of intentions. He also observed that not every government project is as joined up as it could be. I can say to him that this will be one of the most joined up government projects he has yet seen. I don't know where that sets the bar in his own expectations. But I mentioned the diversification strategy. I'm glad that we are having this debate today, but I rather wish we were having it at this time tomorrow, because I would be able to say significantly more after the Chancellor has made his statement. That will also tie in to some extent to, as the Secretary of State has said, we will be publishing the diversification strategy alongside the bill that both so many of my colleagues today have referred to. As the Honourable Lady knows, we have published the bill today, so she does not have to wait long for her salvation. But I would say that she mentioned the international angle, she mentioned the need to put money behind it, she mentioned the need to focus on standards, she mentioned the need to focus on a specific, if not literally a lab, then a specific institution, perhaps. Those things will be, in some form or other, all of great interest to her when she reads the diversification strategy, which she will be able to do in due course.
I thank the Minister for giving way, and I really appreciate the comments he's making and look forward, as always, to the publication of the bill and the statement. Can he say, though, will the diversification strategy have legislative structure, content, meaning in the same way as the telecom security bill? Will it have legislative power and binding power on the government?
Thank you. It is a crucial complement to the bill that we have introduced today. And what we will be doing is putting in place all of the, I believe, all of the right incentives to make sure that the requirements we are imposing through legislation, both primary and secondary, are possible to meet or even beat in the course of the timescale that we will be laying out. So while we can't impose through legislation requirements on individual companies to make specific procurement decisions, what we can do is make sure that they are as secure as they need to be, and we can make sure that that programme fits alongside in a way that works for the market and works for our national security. And I know that she will be taking close interest in both the primary and the secondary legislation, which will fill in some of that picture. But as I say, what the honourable member for the Vale of Glamorgan was right to imply that while we are now more dependent, as we move away from Huawei, we have an opportunity to work with both the existing incumbents, primarily Nokia and Ericsson, and also to work with new incumbents who we should be working towards, who we are already working towards increasing presence in our market, and crucially to work towards that Open RAN future that sees interoperability and also sees far greater opportunities, I think, for our own companies to thrive. I give way to the Honourable Gentleman.
I'm grateful to the Minister for giving way, but I would underline a point that I was seeking to make, and that was that there are many component businesses that I referred to will have the opportunity to work with Ericsson and Nokia and other leaders in the field that are alternatives to Huawei, so the UK can play a prominent role, even if it is not the headline first-tier organisation.
Thank you, and he's absolutely right. That's why the government's been working as fast as we can on that 5G supply chain diversification strategy that not only meets our short-term needs, but prioritises that bold and ambitious approach that I think, and I agree, are entirely possible for our companies to really do to make the most of their place, not just in the UK, but also in a global market. It is, to reiterate what has been said before, built around supporting incumbents, around attracting new suppliers, and around accelerating the development and the adoption of the Open RAN interoperable standards that he mentions. All of those are major opportunities, both nationally and internationally. As we've discussed, the decision taken on high-risk vendors does mean that the UK is more resilient on Nokia and Ericsson. And 5G, although it's now available in over 90 towns and cities with the support of those two companies, to grow that number as rapidly as we can, we do need to seize the emerging opportunities, which is why the government is looking through serious R&D interventions of the sort that the Catapult has been so pivotal to accelerate that. And of course, we also do want to bring new suppliers into the UK market. I think it's worth saying, as the Honourable Lady did, that the presence of NEC with its Global Centre of Excellence in the UK is not just an important sign of what is already there, but it's an important signal for the esteem in which the global supply chain holds the UK's enthusiasm for adopting 5G. I will take this opportunity to say that we have no intention whatsoever to delay the 2027 target for the majority of the UK population to be covered by 5G. It's already in 100 towns and cities, and we see that going up all the time. I'll also take this opportunity to point out that the chair of the task force to which she mentioned, which is expert in both commercial and academic senses, the Lord Livingston of Parkhead, I'm sure she knows that Parkhead is part of Glasgow and some way north of Bristol. But I think the diversity of that task force and the expertise of that task force is something that we are keen to focus on, and ultimately we have prioritised expertise in that task force rather than geographic location, but she makes a fair point on some levels. But as I say, Glasgow is consistently north of Bristol. So I think we've covered the geography of Glasgow. We are working, of course, to remove the barriers to entry for the new market entrants, and the task force is a crucial part of that. But our ambition is not going to stop there. We will be very keen to make sure that our global ambitions are a part of both the work of that task force, the work of the diversification strategy, and that will persist well beyond simply the process that we go through with the telecom security bill and with the diversification strategy. My right honourable friend from the Vale of Glamorgan also did note our existing expertise, and he mentioned Open RAN. Open RAN is hugely important in the future. He will know that Vodafone has already launched a trial in Wales itself. That is the first, we think, of a significant improvement in the percentage of Open RAN, and what we will be seeking to do is to make sure that persists as quickly as it possibly can. He also mentioned the low Earth orbit satellite potential of OneWeb, and I think it's really important that we are open-minded when it comes to what technologies can be developed both through the Catapult and elsewhere. As the Honourable Lady said, we should not simply be looking at 5G when it comes to making sure we connect as much of the country as we possibly can. And to address the comments from the SNP, the Honourable Gentleman is of course completely right that while we talk about 5G, it is important not to forget that there are significant parts of the country that need a step change in their connectivity. The Shared Rural Network, a £1 billion partnership between the UK government and the mobile networks, will see the connectivity in Scotland in particular accelerate very rapidly in terms of 4G between now and 2025, and that is hugely welcome, as he and others in this room are also keenly aware, and Scotland is a challenging geography to wire up, but it is crucial that we do so as rapidly as we possibly can. My honourable friend from Wakefield mentioned the opportunities that we face in this project. He is absolutely right to do so. We should see the next few years as a crucial opportunity for us to grow a really important UK market. The Honourable Lady from Newcastle Central said she never had the opportunity to work for a British telecoms, a major British telecoms company. I would say to her simply that the night is young, and if we get this right, then there are opportunities that will come in Britain and elsewhere. But all of this will require investment, and the government will be putting forward an initial funding package to be set out in the spending review tomorrow, along with a boost to the Ofcom budget to reflect its enhanced security role under the bill that we've laid today. That funding package will drive early progress. It will ensure that our diversification strategy doesn't only bolster the resilience and security of our digital infrastructure, but creates opportunities for competition, innovation and prosperity up and down the country in all four nations. It is a huge opportunity that we are able, I hope, to seize rapidly over the next few years, not just in 5G, but of course through the UK's gigabit programme as well, because we are already a country that benefits hugely from the digital economy. This programme and this debate is a part of doing that better. It is part of building back better, and I'm confident that it will be something that we will look back on and say that we took a decision around Huawei that improved both our national security and drove us seizing economic opportunities as well. And I thank the Honourable Gentleman for calling this debate today.
Alan Cairns to wind up.
Well, Madam Chair, it's a privilege to have the opportunity to, and it's been a great opportunity to respond to the debate where everyone has been in agreement. I pay tribute to the Minister and to the Shadow Minister for the healthy banter that exists between the two. But I think we recognise the real economic opportunity that lies here. They happen to be in parts of the UK where there are specific economic challenges. So it is a great chance where the levelling up agenda, as well as great advances in technology and in the 5G network within the UK, but globally, come together where the UK can play a prominent part. I'm grateful to the Honourable Member from the SNP, as well to my Honourable friend from Wakefield for their contributions, recognising the challenges the government have faced, but also the opportunity that lies in front of us. We need to move away from the headline first-tier organisations, because much of the expertise lies in a diversified supply chain. I think we've named some of the organisations that fall into that supply chain, but there will be many more too that we're not aware of. Startups that will have broken through in some of these fields. And I think that the Minister at DCMS, but also the Minister at Bays and beyond, need to be playing that facilitating factor to respond to the latest technology that's emerging, creating a framework where the companies can come together so that they can further enhance the research and excellence within the field in taking the opportunity for the UK to play a prominent part, not only within the UK network, but also within the exports that nations around the world are looking for, but don't have that base level of excellence and research that we've all referred to. I'm grateful, Ms Eagle.
The question is that this House has considered business and economic opportunities after Huawei's exclusion from the 5G network. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Of the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Order, order. The sitting stands adjourned.